everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Inc. podcast. I am very excited about my guest today. Miss Britt Seva will be joining us. Welcome, Britt, to the show.
Oh my gosh, Allie, I'm so excited to be here. I'm hooked on your energy. I'm really excited for this interview, and it's going to be a party. I'm looking forward to it.
Totally. So for those of you who do not know Britt Seva, she is one of the top coaches, business builders for salons, stylists, and really in the entire world, as far as I know. So what she has done is so incredibly impressive. And I really want to give her the opportunity to tell you guys more about her backstory and really how she got to this point. And I know we're going to have some amazing information for you all today. So Britt, with that being said, the floor is yours. Let's give the audience kind of a deep dive into who you are, what you do, and how you got to this place in your life.
Thank you for that intro. That was very humbling. I so appreciate it. So I am a licensed cosmetologist in the state of California. I have been since 2007. I got into the beauty industry with the dreams of being a six-figure stylist. That was the goal. Maybe open a salon of my own one day, maybe be a salon owner. But honestly, I was a teen mom. I already had a 2-year-old when I joined the industry, and I just wanted to provide an amazing life for her. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to have freedom and flexibility. I think entrepreneurship is going to be, right? I'm going to work when I want and do what I want and make great money. So that was the vision. And once I got into the industry, I realized that was not what was happening. I could not find a single person who was making great money, living a balanced life. I saw a lot of rich people who were tired and burnt out and in really toxic relationships. I saw a ton of that. I saw people who were working part-time, but were also making 20 grand a year. There was nobody who was doing what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I realized, okay, I could either fall in line and choose one of those, or I could go back to doing weddings and special events, which is what I had been doing, or I could choose to forge a new path. And I chose to forge the new path. And in doing so, I uncovered these like really innovative ways of marketing or looking at businesses or looking at consumer behavior that allowed me to grow really fast. And I always humbly say, I was not a super talented hairstylist at all. I wasn't good at cutting hair. I was just okay at formulation. And so if I could do it, literally anybody could. And that's when I realized, wow, the business game isn't so much about the hard skills as it is about the soft skills so often. Mm-hmm. And if I could really figure out how to market, the world would be my oyster. I could have whatever I wanted. And so as I uncovered more, the owner of my salon asked me if I'd consider stepping away from my clientele and running the salon day to day. I agreed. I ran the salon team until 2016, and I was able to grow it to the multi-7-figure level. And while I was doing that, other salon owners started reaching out to me saying, how the heck are you doing what you're doing? Would you be interested in coaching us? And my coaching business evolved very organically in 2012, and I've been coaching full-time since 2016.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. I think ultimately you are so spot on, because the truth is that all of these businesses, local businesses, small businesses, and online businesses as well, so much of it really is marketing and innovative management and processes. And it's very ironic because, as I mentioned, we're recording, I'm at Social Media Marketing World right now, and I brought one of my best friends here with me. She is not an entrepreneur yet. She just finished her doctorate in education. She's a respiratory therapist, professor. She's got amazing ideas for what she wants to do. And I'm trying to really show her, look, you already have what you need. All it really will take now is forging that new path that people have not yet done in your industry, which is what I think is so beautiful about being an entrepreneur. We are not constrained by the ways that things have been done in the past. We really have that opportunity to see what the problems are and fix those problems on our own if we're motivated to do so. So what I'm very interested to hear is, what were those big problems that you saw that had been preventing people from reaching that level or not getting so burnt out, but making great money in the process? What were those initial issues that you wanted to focus on fixing?
There were several, and there still are several that I'm working on systemically trying to change. But the biggest one is, I think a lot of people didn't leave the beauty industry, but I think this is across all industries, with the idea of, I'm an entrepreneur. So a lot of us get certified in a skill and we're like, okay, great, I'm a dental hygienist. Okay, great, I've got my doctorate in something. Okay, great, I'm a cosmetologist. And it's you got the ticket to ride, but you need so many other things to actually turn that into something. The certificate is step one, the degree is step one. Now, what are you going to do to create your success. Like we all have the potential to live our biggest, best lives no matter what, but you need to know how to do it. And so the one thing that was very blatant to me was that in my industry, there was a lack of just solid business-based education. Nobody understood what it meant to watch the money. Nobody understood what marketing looked like. So it was the basic fundamentals of that, but also the hustle culture is still very prevalent. And this idea that to make more money, you serve more people, like a volume-based business, right? That there was no other way that to make more money than to work more hours, serve more guests, double book, triple book, pack them in. And that to me is so incredibly false. It's one way to do it, but there's a lot of other ways. So there's so many systematic breaks, but the idea that hustle is the only way to succeed and that just because you have a skill, you're innately going to be successful. Those were the two biggest fallacies that I really wanted to overcome.
Yeah. And I think an industry like salon, stylists, barbers, people who serve others physically in person, I think it's such an easy trap for them to fall into because they see each and every customer as a certain dollar amount. And it would be confusing without that baseline business knowledge to figure out what it really looks like to be able to charge more, get into higher dollar services, retain customers longer, things that ultimately will grow their business. So what is the best first step for someone who is going to be certified in something, or they have that skill and they do want to grow as an entrepreneur, not just that tactician, so to speak? What is the advice that you give someone in terms of their next steps to not making this a hustle business, but really thinking about this from a larger perspective?
First of all, I love that you said tactician. Such a good word, because that's where we all start off. Is I call it the talent of the business, where you're the doer, you're the person who does all the things and does all the pieces. When I look at business, I see it as being 5 different roles. So we have the CEO, the CMO, the COO, and the talent. To me, those 5 things exist in your business, my business, everybody's business. The tactician is the talent. And so often, I'm sure you and I have both done this, we give the tactician all the credit. And we're like, well, do more and then you'll make more. But if you look at like really successful businesses, let's use something like Target. Okay. Most people know what Target is. There's a Target on every corner. The tactician or the talent in Target is the cashier. It's the stock person. It's the person who runs customer service. They're not the decision maker. They can all leave tomorrow and Target's going to carry forward. They'll hire other people to do it. But so often we put all the weight on, okay, if I see more people, if I check out more guests, if I sell more t-shirts, I'll make more money. Target has made money because of the CEO, the CMO, the CFO, and the COO who are thinking about things like guest experience. How do I market? The dog with the bullseye eye. It's like they're thinking about the things that actually make it happen. The little dollar section. Who doesn't love the Target dollar section? That took probably millions of dollars of research to realize, oh, this will be a smart thing to do. And taking a step back, and instead of being the tactician, what I say is, if you are in a service-based business, you have to spend 80% of your time serving the guests. I'm not saying that's not important. That's the fulfillment piece. But at minimum, 20% of your time has to be spent on marketing, visionary, managing the money. That 20-80 split at a minimum is critical. And taking that step back and saying, as much as I want to be the tactician and serve the guests, I need to reserve at minimum 20% of my time to really run this business. And people are scared to do that because they're afraid if I take a day off my books, I'll miss that $500 in cuts and color I was going to make. I argue as soon as you do that, you'll make an additional $5,000 over the next 8 weeks because you'll be so much more strategic in the way you're running your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think I'd mentioned to you this before. My brother, he owns a barber shop. I also have a sister-in-law who's a stylist. And this is one thing that we've talked about so many times is the fact that you do get some sort of education on that tactical aspect, but knowing that people with this skill are going to be either independent contractors or a business owner 99% of the time, the fact that there is no education on any of the steps outside of those hard skills. And I think for somebody like you, that is a great thing because you're able to fill that void. And for him as well, I've told him, like, look, I want you to make a course about how to open a barbershop. That is valuable information that so many barbers out there need. And the other piece of it too, I think, is these are industries that will never go away. They are
Thank you.
consistent. They are one of the most essential types of businesses that exist. And so it doesn't really matter what you do. Those businesses can't be taken online in their entirety. It's a physical experience, and it will always be. But because of that, I feel like there should be additional time and effort put into figuring out how do people who go into this really thrive? Because if they don't, then we're going to lose people in those industries. And given that it is so necessary for all of us, we're really going to feel that. So why do you think there has been a lack of business knowledge and education in some of these trades or hard skills or certifications, knowing that's really the straightforward path after you complete it?
You know what's sad, Allie, is I think that a lot of people in the industry, and not just in the beauty industry, I think in a lot of industries, talk a good game about things like community over competition. But I've got a new 80-20 rule that I've been like really geeking out over the last year. Is I think that most experts of any trade, any industry, are willing to share about 80% of what they've learned, right? Yep. 80% I'll be open book with you, Allie. But that last 20%, my secret sauce, I'm going to keep close to heart, because as much as I want you to win, I still want to be the biggest winner. And I think especially in trade-based industries, like your brother as a barber, he wants to, I'm sure, like if a neighboring barber came over and was like, bro, I need some help. Can you help me? Absolutely. But your brother still wants to be the winner, and that's understandable. Yep. So what's happened in the industry over the years is I think that our industry is one where we like the newbie to walk 10 miles in the snow. I wanted to take them a decade because it took me a decade, so it should take you that long. Yeah. I don't think that we've yet come around to, but what if it could take you a year, and in the year it took you, I'm still doubling my income? Like, why can't we all win? I don't think that mindset has been adopted yet.
Yeah, I think it's so true in a lot of industries, like you said, but there is, I don't know, just a lack of entrepreneurship knowledge, I think, in general in the world. I was actually having this conversation last night, just talking about the fact that entrepreneurs are what makes the world go round. There are problems and people solve the problems. And if you don't have that, you live in a world full of problems with no solutions. Yet there's no business school in high school. There's no entrepreneurship education. We have all these people that are coming out of school that maybe they want to go to college, but maybe they don't. And they could be something amazing, but there is literally no opportunity for them to get that knowledge unless they just start a business and figure it out as they go, which all of us did, or hire a mentor or a coach or learn from someone who's done it before. And so I just love the fact that despite, I think, our societal failures in this department, people like you, people like me, we are able to try and fill the gap. And Russell Brunson says is you only need to be one step ahead of the people that you're educating. And so while my brother still has all these amazing goals of what he wants to do and grow into, he's been successfully running a barbershop for years now. He does really well. He's all this stuff. And I'm like, you may think that you're not to the place where you can help others in that way just yet, but you really are. You're doing something that other people dream of doing and they don't know how to do it. So I think it does put the brunt of this weight on people that are willing to share and help others. But you're exactly right. I think those who pay attention. So if you are willing to invest in your business to learn from somebody, you're going to do it so much faster and really reap the rewards in a much different way. So I think that's just absolutely amazing. And the world needs more people like Britt Seva out there to help people in these critical industries thrive so that we don't see shortages like we're seeing in so many other spaces. So when you really stepped into that managerial role in that salon, what were some of the immediate changes that you thought need to be made? Because you obviously had the time and the space now to be able to take that step back and look at the things that were more critical, like marketing and finance and all that good stuff. In terms of the day-to-day operations side, what were some of the glaring red flags? Or maybe they weren't so glaring, but you realized that they were very important to change.
Really good question. And I knew when I was stepping in, there were things that needed to change. But the thing that I did right, and I was young and naive, but I did do this part right, is that I took a step back, and for 6 months, I didn't really change much of anything. I sat in the seat, I observed, I connected. I tried to build trust because these were people that had been my coworkers, and now I'm their boss, essentially, which is a huge shift. So I took the time. I will say we lost 3 stylists pretty much immediately after I took over. But that's fairly typical, right? A new regime, people are going to move on. Not everybody loved it. I totally get it. So there was a loss. So if that happens for anybody else, it's fairly normal. Not everybody thought I was a great person to work for. It's fine. So for me, and a big part of why they left is I believed we were lacking structure. And this is where I think people get twisted when we talk about business culture, is the salon was so fun, like the most fun. It was like a big family, but to me, there were these like critical cracks in the family, almost like when you look at a family from the outside, like the Instagram iconic family, and you're like, but they're on the verge of divorce. You know what I mean? It was like that, where I was like, but not really. So for me, I was like, we need real structure. These stylists need actual benchmarks. But what I did that I think was right is that I really looked at like the goals of the people as human beings. So a lot of times we think of like stylists or tacticians as producers. They're like cogs in a machine, which I understand. But if we were to take a step back and humanize these people and say, listen, Allie, maybe you don't want to make 100 grand as a stylist. Maybe you're like, I want to make 45 grand working 2 days a week. You would be a dream for me. If I could have 3 stylists all making 45 grand a month, working 6 days collectively, oh my gosh, I'd do so well. But often we look at our people like, Allie, I need you to make 100 grand. No, I don't. I could you to take 3 people just like you, each doing 45 grand and make way more than that. And when I took a step back and looked at like the potential of the business beyond what we already had and say, if I just see each of these chairs as a vehicle, how do I best use these pieces to make the salon as profitable as possible? And that's where you start doing fun things like double shifting or looking at ways to allow humans to be successful humans while looking at the potential of the business overall. And that's when things really exploded.
That's amazing. And I love that because that is the truth. There are some people who they don't want that. They don't want a massive business. They may not want a business at all. They want to enjoy their life, do the things that matter to them in a way that gives them that freedom and flexibility. And as long as, you know, people are able to pay their bills and they can enjoy time with their family or loved ones, that is all they're going to want. And I think that's where we as entrepreneurs sometimes fail. Like you said, we expect that everyone is as ambitious as we are. And I think I've seen pretty clearly that's simply not the case. Sometimes they should be, but it's just not for everyone. And so tell me how you really started to take these different pieces, such as the understanding of everyone's goals, being able to work together to drive the salon forward. What did that look like when you started shifting things around? Did you guys add on new services? Let's just talk about kind of how that internal structure played out.
Really good question. And we did add on some new services. I had some stylists who wanted to shift forward and become bridal specialists, or extensions were really just coming into the market in 2010, 2011, 2012. So we had certified some stylists in that. That was definitely a part of it. Now, there were some people who had goals to really grow their business. I need to make more money. And that's when I would coach these people to marketing. And we would say, okay, let's get really innovative with marketing. Let's figure out how we're going to get, I call it awareness, how we're going to get more awareness around you and your brand and your business as a stylist. If no one's aware of you, it doesn't matter how great your Instagram looks, you're still a ghost. So how do we get more people aware that you even exist? So there were some people who were like that. Then I had my stylists who were comfortable. They didn't want to change anything. So we would look at how do we make your chair more profitable without you having to do anything more. As we got to know each stylist and their goals, we were able to refine. It doesn't mean anybody got to be complacent, but the game was different, right? Do we need to double your clientele, or do we need to increase your income by 30% without changing a thing? And that's when it starts to get really fun. That's when you get to tweak it and shift things in a way where everybody's a winner and my profit margin increases as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. So for those people who they didn't want to change what the service was that they were offering, what were some of those changes that would allow them to keep things relatively similar, yet increase their revenue and your profit margins? Because I think this is something I see everywhere. They're just missing out on these huge opportunities, tiny little tweaks most of the time that it would be so easy. All you have to do is do it, but you have to know that it needs to be done, which means that you have to understand really how all of this works, and things like customer lifetime value and increasing the average ticket value. All of they're very simple technically. And I feel like, goodness, if people could really grasp what you were able to help those specific people do, because they're the easiest and they make a big change fast, then they would be in a better position to maybe go to more of those visionary type decisions, service changes, things like that. So I'm very interested to hear what those changes actually were.
Really good question. I call these things levers. Imagine you have this like board and you're like the master of your own business and you're like adjusting levers all the time of like what you want to crank up and what you want to crank down. So if we're looking at a clientele you already have, which to what you just said, you're exactly right. Like we all know it's 6 times cheaper and easier to retain a guest than find a new one. Yet we all spin our wheels about just the marketing all the time. It's like, okay, but what happens after you've got them? Different things we could do, and it would shift depending on the specialty. So in-salon conditioning treatments were a lever. In-salon conditioning treatments in the beauty industry are the most profitable service you can offer. Way more profitable than extensions, way more profitable than hair color, definitely more profitable than haircuts. So we would say, okay, if my margin's huge here, this is where we need to play. So retail conditioning treatments, we started doing things, we'd call them mini or maintenance services. So let's say you were coming in, your hair is gorgeous. It's starting to get a little warmer. So of course, I always love a good redhead. I'm a sucker. So your red's amazing. You have a great stylist. So if I was like, but summer's coming, do you want to add like a little pop in the front and $25? It doesn't add any service to your time. It's a little change for you. But what happens is when we make that little micro change and we give you a little pop in the front, first of all, you're no longer feeling complacent with your color. Even though you love it and it's gorgeous, we all get bored. So you get a little something fun. And I'm like, but don't worry, it's not permanent. We'll just gloss it down when we're ready. It's no worries. But people start talking to you about it. Did you do something different in your hair? So you're getting the compliments, you're getting the confidence. I'm going to get referrals from it. So we would do these little things where it didn't take any extra time. You had the guest already in your chair, but what can we do to increase, like you said, their lifetime value, the value of their ticket, to increase the spend authentically? I didn't ever like the used car salesman way of doing things, but like authentically to increase the revenue for everybody. We would also do things like peak and premium pricing. So if I'm book slam busy on Saturdays, but my Tuesdays are a little softer, my Saturdays get a premium value. So there was a lot of different levers we could pull, and the recipe would change based on the person I was coaching and what opportunities were available and what we thought their clientele could withstand. But that's where you get sophisticated. And I think a lot of people think, need more money, raise your prices, or find more people. And it's no, there's 100 other things that we could do first. And to be able to tweak and see what works for each one, that was totally the secret sauce.
I love that so much. And what's interesting is that I feel that just about every stylist, because I see this for myself in my own business, there are always suggestions that you're going to have.
Always.
That person for whatever their goals are and their unique situation. And I can think of 100 opportunities where someone comes to me for one thing. And as we really dive into that thing, I'm like, okay, this is what you should do. This is what makes sense given what you have. And it turns into another very profitable sale that would not have taken place on the back end if I had not simply suggested the thing they already needed. And I think being able to see it is one thing, but the second piece is being willing to mention it and talk about it.
Yes.
And if somebody doesn't want it, that's totally fine. But being able to be the consultant that can diagnose and prescribe what it is your customer base actually needs. And I think that is true for every industry in one way or another. So I really like the premium pricing model. That is not necessarily in its in the way that you described, something that I'm able to do, but I do have increased prices when we get on a wait list for certain services. And it's not even necessarily because you want to raise the prices. It's that if you are at capacity for something, there is simply no way around it. It's supply and demand. So very fundamental. And that's an amazing way to be able to take whatever days you have available and the time that your clients are going to spend with you, give them the option, because some people may not care if it's Saturday, and then your Saturday opens up for somebody that's spending more money. So I think it's a win-win. Why do you think that stylists are do you think they're resistant to some of those things, or do you find that they're very, willing to know?
They're hugely resistant. And I understand why. There's the fear of change and the fear of losing money. I think the fear of losing money has a really huge grip on people in general. And for me, money is the resource. There is so much freaking money in the world. That's the one thing we're not in shortage of. Like, we're in shortage of a lot of things around here. Money is not one of them. We've
actually got way too much money.
Way too much. Yeah, we've got the opposite problem right now. We need to figure out how to control that. But there's no shortage of dollars. There's a shortage of time. There's a shortage of relationship. There's a shortage of all these other things. There is no shortage of money. And so if we can release that fear of there's not enough money, no, there's plenty of money, and just start prioritizing like the structure and getting clear about our messaging and realizing that actually the more clean you make your business and the more restrictions you have and the more process there is, you don't want to over process size, but having a predictable flow and systems in place, that's sexy to the consumer. And that's easier for us to run our business too. And when we put these things into place, I understand it's scary, but see the fear and try and walk through it. You have to walk through the fire to get to the glory and on the other side. If you do this with solid business knowledge, don't just start pulling levers and choosing to put premium pricing on things and getting wild and crazy. But I think you and I have both experienced, like, actually, when you start putting these structural pieces into place, that's when the business explodes. But it's scary. And I get that.
It is, totally. And honestly, I feel like those things are the only reason why I've been able to do what I've done thus far in my business, because I keep a really small team. I actually do not like managing people very much at all. That's never been my goal. Like, I wanted a huge business revenue wise, but I wanted a small business people wise. Yes. Like the people I trust that do exactly what they need to do. And I wanted to automate and process every single aspect of the business so that we could get so much more done with not that many hands on deck. And even still, I started doing that at the beginning of my business. I was always a processes type of person, but I still have so much more to do. Like, we're actually right now, we have this one specific service that is a huge seller. People love it. And we've already implemented a lot of processes for it, but we just notice we get the same questions, or people aren't reading things or watching things that are really important for, or they're not listening, and it's not being reiterated enough. And so we've had, like, nothing earth shattering, a handful of issues that internally we're like, why does this keep happening? And so we are fixing it. But it's great though, because we had to know what the problems were. We had to have those little things where, no, this is where it is, or that's where it is. This is what you should do. And now that we know exactly that, I'm probably like more excited about implementing this back-end process than anything else, because I think it's going to be so amazing now that I know what the pain points are, what the areas of confusion are, what the frequently asked questions are. And so without that, I wouldn't actually be able to do this, because that's where the original processes came into play. We did it. Now we've seen in real time how it actually works and what would be much better. So I love the phrase that you said, you've got to walk through the fire to get to the glory. And it's true. You've got to, I feel like you have to embrace those tension pieces in your business, because it's actually what allows you to find the solutions that you wouldn't otherwise be able to find. So I think that's so amazing. If you're talking about a salon who starts out as a stylist and they want to move more into that business side, do you normally recommend that they continue to actually be that tactician and that manager or that COO? Or should they just give it up full time and hire people on board, stick to that one zone? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Really good question. A little bit of everything. I first want to go back and reiterate what you just said, where you were talking about how you continue to listen to your students and you listen to your audience. I think that's a piece so many people forget. Like, we get so in our own heads of, this is what they need, and we stop listening. You hit the nail on the head when you said that. The more we slow down and listen, the better we can serve. And if more people took that advice, oh my gosh, more people would be so much more successful. But When we look at those who want to become owners, do they fully step away from being the tactician? I look at business ownership in stages, and you and I have both gone through stages as well. So the first stage is just owner. And as the owner, you are the tactician, you are the cleaning person, you are the marketer, you're the everything. We're all the hats. That to me is just called owner. And then we have a leader. And so a leader is, and an owner is 100% execution. That's all they do. You're owning the business, you're doing the things, you're keeping the lights on, whatever. Then we have the leader, and the leader is more like 30% vision, 70% execution. So they have an idea that they really want to go places. They want amazing things to happen, but 70% of their time is still in the executing, the doing. They're taking clients, they're serving, they're running to Costco to buy the amenities. They're like doing all the stuff still. When we look at what it truly is to be like a visionary, like actually run the business, you need to be 100% vision, no execution, but it takes time to get there. I'm certainly not there. It doesn't mean my business isn't successful. I'm in that leader phase where I spend a lot of time in vision. I'm probably a little bit more like 50-50, but I'm still very tactical. If I was straight up visionary, I might not even be doing this podcast with you. I'd have a coach or somebody else doing it. Right? I would be no tactician at all.
Yeah.
I personally don't want that right now. I like doing this. This is the part that serves me too. And I can't say in 10 years, I'm going to feel the same, but right now I can't imagine not having my hands in. And so I think that's important for people to know. If you want to just be the owner who executes, you can do that, but it does cap the amount you're going to grow. If you want to be a leader, you have that balance of, I need to be the CEO, I need to be the CMO, but I'm still hands in. And then there's the true visionary where you're just overseeing things. And all work, it's just a question of what do you want? And then understanding and respecting the fact that this is what I've chosen. I need to make sure everything gets the attention that it needs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that's so powerful. And also the other piece too is I think people believe that when they decide, like, I want to be that visionary or that leader, that it happens overnight because you've decided it. Like you decide, but you still have to go through the path because I don't know any other way around it. I guess if there was a way around it, someone would have figured it out by now because you're forced to go through steps. And one of my favorite quotes is new level, new devil. And I believe that's true. You don't ever get rid of problems. You don't ever get rid of any type of confrontation or issue in business. Those never go away. What goes away is that you're not dealing with every single one of them. Other people can help you in dealing with them. But if you're dealing with any type of issue, you as the leader have to be the one that figures out how to move forward from that and how to solve that. So I think that they are just not embracing the journey portion of it. And it can be hard, but I look at it like a game. Like I'm making my chess piece move and I'm playing my hand. And am I going to get to that piece where I knock them all down? But I see so many similarities between what you're saying and the marketing space, in all honesty. So when I first started my business, I was 100% agency. I did the marketing for other people. I could only serve so many people unless I hired help for all these back-end aspects. So I had more time to be that tactician, or I had to literally remove myself from every piece of the agency portion. And I do know people who've done that really well. They essentially have their little conveyor belt of people, and that's all good. But I love marketing. I love it so much. And I didn't want to remove myself. So I had to ask myself, how am I going to grow if I don't want to do that? But I also am not willing to cap my income. And I think it's almost the same type of issue. It's a one-on-one service that can only go so far, or you've got to do something different. And new, unique services was the way that I was able to do that. And I've gone through so many evolutions of my business. That's what I was sharing with my friend last night. Like what I was when I started is so vastly different than what it is today. It's the same general concept, the same goal, serving the same people, but in a much different, much more profitable way. I had no idea I had really big dreams when I started my business, but I did not even for a second imagine that I could be doing what I'm doing right now with as little time and the small number of people that work with me. I did not realize that. And I think that they've got to be willing to say, I can be in this industry and in this space, but maybe what I am actually going to be doing in it is something I don't even know yet, but I'm willing to go wherever that place is and figure it out. And I think it's a lot more fun that way. You're not as tied to controlling everything.
And I wish more people would think like that, Allie. I think we look at like, maybe somebody loves, admires, and respects you. And they're like, I want to do what Allie's doing. And so they try to create a copycat of your model. Mm-hmm. They can do that. That doesn't mean they'll find the fulfillment that you have found, or they might even find identical success, but maybe it'll be a business that makes them miserable. And I think you hit the nail on the head where it's just trust the journey. Find what you love, find what brings you joy, find what you're innately good at. And I know it sounds so cliche, but like the success will truly come. It's so true. There's no other way to say it.
And I think I talk to like everybody in my life, but me and my masseuse, we have very deep conversations.
Oh, yes.
I can't shut up when I'm getting a massage most of the time. We talk about this all the time. And you seem so sure of yourself. How did you get that way? And I think the biggest thing has been, well, I've always been a writer, so I've journaled my whole life. I spend a good amount of time on self-reflection and thinking about the things that I like and thinking about the things I don't like and replaying conversations and really trying to dissect the way that people behave. And because of that, I feel confident in my choices because I avoid the things I'm not good at.
Yes.
So I have someone else help me with those things. I choose in all cases the things that I love or that I'm really good at. So you're going to be happier because you're going to be better at things. If you tried to, I'm trying to think of something I'm really bad at, like bowling, not good at bowling.
The worst.
If you try and tell me to be like the world's best bowler and spend all my time practicing and bowling, I'm not ever going to be a world champion, and I'm probably going to feel pretty bad about myself because I'm not good at it. And
even if somebody told you, like, Allie, if you kept practicing, you'd make $1 million. It's not even worth it. You'd be miserable at the bowling alley. It wouldn't even pay off. And you're exactly right. That's the piece that so many people miss. They're so tempted by the $1 million that they'll take up bowling or something that they hate in order to do it. And if people would only understand, no, it's like truly do what you love and the money will come. It really is so true.
I also think people are conditioned to believe that working and like life aren't that enjoyable.
Yes.
That mediocre is acceptable, or you don't have to be passionate about what you're doing, and that's okay. Oh, everybody deals with that. I've never accepted that for a day in my life. I always knew that whatever it was I was doing, I was going to be 100% passionate about it, or I had no business doing it. And that did change a lot over the years. Like I was going to go to medical school. I was going to be a nurse practitioner. And I realized I would have been extremely miserable, like beyond measure. I still could have made great money. I still had some of those skills and I was very interested, but I knew the environment, the stifling of my creativity, the lack of color and originality just in everything you can do would have killed my soul. And I thought about it at a point where I still had time to change it, but everybody's got time to change it at any point in their life. And so I think maybe just like paying attention for the first time, like this thing that I'm doing right now, do I enjoy it or do I not? Write it down. What? No, I do not like this thing. I hate keeping my books. Okay, hire a bookkeeper. Like every single thing you don't like, just get it out of your life and get the good things in. And it truly is amazing what can happen after that. And I think you're proof of that. The salons and the stylists that you're working with are proof of that. And I just think it's so cool to have a business like that is such a one-to-one service that if you really think about it, you're like, oh, there's no other way to grow it than to just open lots of salons where you're literally the owner, or to just be the stylist getting more clients. And the fact that you've proven and shown that this is not what you have to do to be fulfilled or super successful financially is amazing. And I think most businesses out there can take something huge from that, because if it can be done in that industry, it can be done any. And We need a lot more small businesses to get this figured out right now because they're struggling so much. And most of it's just not that hard, but you got to be willing to do something different. If you are in a place that might keep you from being open next year, you got to do something different, and it could be an awesome, exciting journey that leads you to something amazing. So thank you so much for this conversation today. I've had a ton of fun. If you could leave the audience with one big piece of advice or something you feel is really important for them to know, what would that be?
Just, you made something spark for me. And I think the quote that resonates with me a lot is like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
We can change the trajectory of our life at any given time. All you have to do is commit to the change. Allow that fear of failure to just be fully released. And again, that other cheesy quote of what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Believe in that for a second. One of the things that really changed my outlook is whenever I'm at a crossroads of a major decision, I ask myself, like, what is the worst that could happen? I do this and it all falls apart. What is the worst that could happen? Unless it's I lose my marriage and I lose my children, I'm pretty much going to go for it because there's really nothing. There's pretty much nothing else that's that critical. I'm like, I can make more money. I can start a new business if I have to. But the fear of not living life in full, that's the scariest thing to me. And I just hope everybody walks away like seeking that catalyst for change and saying, what do I need to change in my business so that the future of my life changes in suit? I think that mindset is the most powerful thing we can all carry today.
Oh, I love it so much. This has been a great inspirational conversation. If people want to learn more about you, where is the best place to find you?
I am Britt Seva pretty much everywhere. So it's BRITSEV on Instagram, brittseva.com. You can also check out the Thriving Stylist Podcast. And to what Ali said, it is the Thriving Stylist Podcast, and I speak hairstylist, but it's really great general business advice. This has been such a joy. Thank you so much. Truly so much fun today.
I am thrilled that you were able to join me, and hopefully you will come back again and do it. I'm sure we've got a lot more
Anytime.
talking to do.
Anytime. I would love it.
Awesome. Wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. Would love to hear your feedback, and I will see you next time.